Found my husband's secret phone with another woman's photos. When I discovered who she really was, everything made sense. The vibration came from inside the couch cushions at 2:17 a.m. I was curled up in our living room, unable to sleep after another one of Michael's late business meetings. The soft buzz was unfamiliar, not the ringtone of his usual phone. My heart hammered as I dug between the cushions and pulled out a sleek black device I'd never seen before. The lock screen showed 3 missed calls from A. No last name, just a single letter that felt loaded with secrets. I stared at the phone in my trembling hands. 11 years of marriage, and I was holding evidence of what I'd suspected for months, but been too afraid to confirm. Michael had been distant, distracted, working late more often. The classic signs everyone warns you about. The phone buzzed again, a text message. Missing you already? Can't wait for tomorrow night. A. My stomach lurched. I tried different passcodes. Michael's birthday, our anniversary, our daughter's birthday. Nothing worked. But as I tilted the phone, I noticed something odd. There were photos visible through the notification previews, and I caught glimpses of a woman with dark hair. I spent the rest of the night staring at that phone, my mind racing through scenarios. By morning, I'd convinced myself I was about to discover my husband's affair, and I'd already started planning how to tell Emma, our 8-year-old daughter, that Daddy wouldn't be living with us anymore. Michael came down for breakfast looking refreshed, humming softly, a stark contrast to my sleepless night. I watched him butter his toast, this man I'd loved since college, wondering how long he'd been living a double life. Sleep well? He asked, not looking up from his newspaper. Like a rock, I lied, the secret phone burning a hole in my robe pocket. After he left for work, I drove to the Apple store. The young technician, probably no older than 20, looked sympathetic when I explained I'd found a phone and wanted to return it to its owner. If it's not password protected on the Photos app, you might be able to see some images that could help identify the owner, he suggested helpfully. My hands shook as I discovered he was right. The Photos app opened without requiring the main passcode, revealing hundreds of images. And there she was, the other woman. She was beautiful in an ethereal way, with long dark hair and striking green eyes. But something felt off as I scrolled through the images. These weren't typical affair photos. There were no romantic dinners, no intimate moments, no couple selfies. Instead, they were almost clinical. Photos of her reading, sleeping, walking down streets, sitting in cafes, always alone, always unaware she was being photographed. My confusion deepened as I continued scrolling. Some photos were clearly taken from a distance. Others seemed to be surveillance-style shots. In one, she was entering what looked like a medical building. In another, she was at a grocery store, reaching for something on a high shelf. The timestamps showed the photos spanned over 2 years. 2 years of secret documentation of this woman's life. That evening, I confronted Michael with the phone. His face went white when he saw it, but not in the way I'd expected. Instead of guilt or defiance, I saw something else. Fear. Where did you find this? His voice was barely a whisper. In our couch. Michael, who is she? He closed his eyes, running his hands through his graying hair. Sarah, I can't. This is complicated. Complicated? My voice rose. My husband has a secret phone filled with photos of another woman, and you think complicated covers it? It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, in a voice I'd never heard before, broken, haunted, he said, "Her name is Amanda. She was my sister." I felt the world tilt. Was? Michael, you don't have a sister. I did. I do. He sat down heavily, suddenly looking older than his 42 years. Amanda was my twin sister. The word twin hit me like a physical blow. In 11 years together, 7 years married, Michael had never once mentioned having a twin. He'd told me he was an only child, that his parents died in a car accident when he was 18. I'd comforted him through what I thought was the loneliness of having no family left. That's impossible. You would have told me. I couldn't tell you because I thought she was dead. His voice cracked. I thought she died 24 years ago. I sank into the chair across from him, the phone clutched in my hands. What are you talking about? Michael's story came out in fragments, like he was pulling each word from some deep, painful place. When he and Amanda were 18, they'd been in foster care together, their last placement before aging out of the system. One night, Amanda disappeared. No note, no goodbye, just gone. The police said she was probably a runaway. Foster kids go missing all the time, apparently. His laugh was bitter. I searched for months, but eventually, everyone convinced me she was dead, probably killed by whoever she'd run off with. But she's not dead. No, I found her 3 years ago, completely by accident. I was in Portland on business and saw her at a coffee shop. I thought I was losing my mind, seeing ghosts. But it was her. Older, different haircut, but unmistakably Amanda. The photos suddenly took on a different meaning. Not evidence of an affair, but documentation of a ghost made flesh. Why didn't you approach her? Michael's face crumpled. I tried. I followed her outside, called her name. She turned around, and Sarah, she looked at me like I was a stranger. Not just any stranger, but one who frightened her. She ran. Maybe she didn't recognize you. She recognized me. His certainty was absolute. I could see it in her eyes. She knew exactly who I was, and she was terrified. Over the following days, Michael revealed the extent of his secret investigation. He'd hired private detectives, learned that Amanda now went by Amy Sullivan, worked as a librarian, lived alone in a small apartment. She'd been in therapy for years, had no social media presence, lived an almost invisible life. The investigator said she has severe PTSD, anxiety disorders. She's been in and out of psychiatric facilities. Michael's voice was hollow. Whatever happened to her after she left, it broke her. I found myself in the strange position of comforting my husband through his surveillance of another woman, a woman who was his sister, who was alive but wanted nothing to do with him. The moral complexity of it made my head spin. The photos, Michael. You've been stalking her. I know how it looks, he said desperately. But I just needed to make sure she was okay, that she was safe. She's all the family I have left, and she won't let me help her. She's not all the family you have left, I said quietly. You have Emma. You have me. Something shifted in his expression, and I realized this was the heart of it. Michael had been living with survivor's guilt for over 20 years, convinced he'd somehow failed to protect his twin sister. Finding her alive but broken had reopened every wound he thought had healed. I've been seeing a therapist, he admitted. Dr. Peterson downtown. She specializes in family trauma. The late nights, the distance, the secretiveness. It wasn't an affair. It was a man grappling with ghosts, trying to reconcile the sister he'd lost with the damaged woman he'd found. But understanding didn't make it easier. You lied to me for 3 years, I said. Every day, you lied about who you were, about your family, about what you were doing. I was protecting you. No, I said firmly. You were protecting yourself. The truth hung between us like a chasm. Michael had been so consumed with his need to fix his past that he'd risked destroying his present. His obsession with Amanda, understandable as it was, had turned him into someone I didn't recognize. What happens now? I asked. Michael looked at the secret phone, then at me. I don't know. I can't stop caring about her. Sarah, she's my sister. But you can stop stalking her. The word hit him like a slap. I'm not stalking. You are. I held up the phone. This is stalking, Michael. You're documenting the life of a woman who has made it clear she doesn't want you in it. You're violating her privacy, her autonomy, her right to choose who gets to love her. He was quiet for a long moment. What if she's in danger? What if she needs help? Then she'll ask for it. From the authorities, from her therapist, from someone, but not from the brother she's been running from for 24 years. It was a hard truth, but necessary. Amanda had the right to her own life, even if that life didn't include Michael. His love for her, however genuine, didn't give him the right to invade her privacy or ignore her clear boundaries. The weeks that followed were some of the most difficult of our marriage. Michael agreed to delete all the photos and get rid of the secret phone, but the damage to our trust was profound. I found myself questioning everything. If he could keep such a massive secret for 3 years, what else didn't I know about the man I'd married? But slowly, through couples counseling and individual therapy, we began to rebuild. Michael started processing his grief, not just for the sister he'd lost, but for the relationship he'd never be able to have with the woman she'd become. It was a different kind of mourning, complicated by the fact that Amanda was alive, but unreachable. I keep thinking I could have prevented whatever happened to her, he confessed during one of our sessions. If I'd been a better brother, if I'd somehow convinced her to stay. You were 18 and aging out of foster care yourself, our therapist, Dr. Martinez, pointed out gently. You were children trying to survive a broken system. Amanda made the choices she felt she had to make. The hardest part was helping Emma understand why Daddy had been so sad lately. We didn't tell her about Amanda. That was a conversation for when she was older. But we did explain that sometimes adults discover things about their past that make them feel confused and sad. Like when I found out Santa wasn't real? She asked with 8-year-old logic. Something like that, sweetheart. 6 months after I found the phone, Michael made a decision that surprised me. He wrote Amanda a letter, not to her home address, which would have felt invasive, but through her therapist, whose name he'd learned through his investigation. The letter was simple. Amanda, I know you don't want contact with me, and I respect that. I just want you to know that I never stopped looking for you, and I never stopped loving you. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here. If you never do, I understand. I hope you found peace. Michael. He never received a reply, and he didn't expect one. But writing it seemed to give him a sense of closure. Not the reunion he'd dreamed of, but acceptance of the situation as it was. I spent so many years thinking she was dead, he told me one evening as we sat on our porch, watching Emma play in the yard. Maybe this is better. At least I know she's alive. At least I know she's made choices for herself, even if they're not the choices I would have wanted for her. It wasn't the ending either of us had expected, but it was real. Sometimes love means letting go, even when every instinct screams to hold on tighter. Sometimes protecting someone means staying away from them. Michael still struggles with the guilt, with the questions that will never have answers. But he's learning to live with uncertainty, to find meaning in the family he has, rather than the one he lost. Our marriage, scarred but not broken, is slowly healing. And sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I think about Amanda, Amy now, and wonder if she thinks about the brother who loved her enough to let her go. I hope she's found peace in her chosen solitude. I hope she knows that somewhere, a man who shares her face wishes her well from a distance. The secret phone is gone, but its legacy remains. The understanding that love isn't always about proximity, that family isn't always about contact, and that sometimes the greatest act of love is respecting someone's right to say no, even when that someone is your twin, your other half, the person you thought you'd lost forever but found again in the most devastating way possible. Michael learned to love Amanda not by trying to save her, but by finally allowing her to save herself.